Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White and White Sense, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Friday the 14th of June 2024. Thank you very much to the people at Coffee Morning who volunteered for our current research opportunities. There are two opportunities available. First of all, to talk about how living with a visual impairment could impact escaping from a fire in your own home. And secondly, for those who have received cancer treatment or testing and how it has been affected by their visual impairment. These opportunities are still available if anybody else would like to come forward. A third opportunity has also come our way. This again is paid research, and it is asking for ideas as to what visually impaired people would like to have research on. We're able to put forward 3 individual opportunities. This workshop will take place before the 19th of July and again is paid research and will attract a £75 payment to each participant, and we're looking for 10 people to come forward. If you would like to join in with this research project, please do let me know, Lisa, by calling the office 522205. Also this week we've prepared a mini newsletter as we do have quite a few events coming up and want to make sure that everybody is aware. The newsletter will be sent out on Monday in your usual format: PDF, email, braille, voice, audio and of course printed. So if you haven't received the letter, please do let us know. One of the key dates within this letter is that if you wish to register for postal vote for the general election, the deadline is the 19th of June, which is next Wednesday. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Lisa, CEO, White Sense and Sight for White.
Here is this week's charity news. 14th of June. Swimming is on Monday at Medina Leisure Centre between 1:15pm and 2:15pm. We have the whole use of the large pool, so whether you are a lane swimmer or someone who just enjoys gentle exercise in the pool, this is open to everyone. The cost is £6 and transport can be arranged where possible.
There is yoga on Tuesday at Millbrook House. Yoga runs from 1:45pm to 2:45pm and the cost is £4, which includes refreshments. All are very welcome.
Our weekly coffee and chat is on Wednesday at Millbrook House between 10am and 11:30am. The cost is £2, which includes coffee and cake. Staff are always on hand to help with any inquiries and equipment will be available to try out. Advance notice: on the 26th of June we have the Macular Society joining us for coffee and chat as part of the Macular Week, raising awareness of the condition. Following on afterwards at 11:30am we have catch-up and feedback for Sight for White. If you are unable to join us but have feedback about our services, etc., please call the office or email and we will discuss during the session.
Thursday is Mix and Mingle. This group meets between 10:30am and 2pm every week. Booking for this group is essential, and at the moment there is a waiting list for people to join.
Our next walk and talk will be on Friday the 21st of June. This month we will be walking from Sandown Pier to Shanklin Seafront, weather dependent. Please call the office to let us know if you will be attending.
We will be at the Isle of Wight Festival running games over the weekend. If you or a family member is attending, please tell them to pop along to the charity area and have a go on our stand.
Our next Eye on Social is on Tuesday the 25th of June at Motterston Manor Gardens. The tour begins at 1 o'clock. Please call Susan if you wish to attend.
We would like to hear from you if you would like to be part of this year's Newport Carnival procession on July 20th. We are looking for members, family and friends to join us to promote the charity and the work we do here. If you are unable to walk the route, you are very welcome to sit in the minibus and wave to the crowds.
Our monthly 100 Club has spare balls available. If anyone would like to buy a ball, it's £2 a month or £24 for the full year. The more balls in the draw, the higher the prize money each month. If you would like to take part in our monthly draw, please call the office. This is part of our fundraising activities.
We are appealing for tombola prizes for our upcoming summer events. If you have anything you wish to donate, please do not hesitate to pop into Millbrook House, or alternatively, please call the office to arrange collection.
If you would like to join any activity or want more details, please call the office on 522205.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. Diverse Marine launches new Storm-class vessel NR Alpha. Cowes-based Diverse Marine and NR Marine Services have announced the launch of its second Storm-class CTV, NR Alpha, that is now proudly being displayed at SeaWork 2024 in Southampton. NR Alpha is a sister to NR Predator, delivered in March this year. NR Predator has performed very well on her first contract with higher performance levels and substantially lower fuel burn and emission levels than other similar vessels on the same project. The Storm class measures 27.6 metres LOA by 10 metres BOA and is fitted with a quad IMO Tier 3 Volvo Penta IPS propulsion system. Its unique hull form features a very fine entry with higher buoyancy reserves above the main chines and resistance-reducing solutions integrated into the underbody. A resilient superstructure ensures very low noise and vibration levels in the passenger saloon, with the first recording sub 55 dBA at full power. NR Alpha is the first vessel from the Diverse Marine Finance and Lease programme announced late last year, and the first of 3 vessels being delivered to the scheme this year. The programme allows Diverse Marine to build offshore wind crew transfer vessels to stock for onward lease or sale. Ben Coleman, Director of Diverse Marine, has said, "We are delighted to announce the build of NR Alpha for NR Marine Services. The performance of NR Predator has exceeded everybody's expectations with exceptionally good performance, fuel efficiency and reliability, a testament to the high quality produced by our team at Cowes." Owen Nutt, Director of NR Marine Services, adds, "The addition of NR Alpha to our fleet so soon after NR Predator is testament to the growth and forward plans set out by our business to add high quality, high performance and efficient vessels to our fleet. Diverse Marine Storm class is the result of the KPIs we provided to Walker Marine Design and the shipyard. With NR Predator, all of these KPIs were met, with the vessel proving to be faster and more efficient than predicted. We're very pleased and excited that we can add NR Alpha to the fleet and provide our clients with class-leading vessels that can save hundreds of thousands of pounds of fuel cost annually without any compromise."
This is Chris reading an article from the Island Echo. Dignitaries mark half a century of serving the island. For half a century, the historic offices of Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff have served the island. Following local government reforms, 1974 saw the late Queen appoint the island's own Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff, with former Governor Lord Mountbatten and Lieutenant Colonel Henry Kindersley appointed to the roles respectively. Both positions are voluntary, generally promoting and encouraging voluntary and charitable organisations taking an interest in the business, urban, rural and social life of the county. Mrs. Susie Sheldon has fulfilled the role of Lord Lieutenant since 2019, while Graham Biss was sworn in as High Sheriff in April 2024. Mrs. Sheldon, who is the sixth incumbent of the position, said, "It is a great honour to be His Majesty the King's representative on the Isle of Wight. Like the rest of the UK, the island has changed greatly in the last 50 years, but the role of Her Majesty's Lord Lieutenant remains very much the same. It is to provide a constant, non-political presence to represent His Majesty the King at events and presentations, to support local groups and organisations, and above all to recognise the contribution made by selfless and dedicated individuals to our community. In addition to its role of supporting the community, the Lieutenancy is responsible for arranging royal visits, advising on nominations for honours, undertaking civic duties, liaising with local units of the uniformed services, leading the local magistracy and other representative responsibilities." Mr. Biss added, "The island has so much to be proud of, and like all High Sheriffs before me, I will strive to support the community to work together to overcome the challenges faced, as well as take time to celebrate the successes that have been achieved." High Sheriffs are the oldest royal appointment, going back to before the Norman Conquest, with the role supporting the judiciary, the police and other law enforcement agencies, the emergency services, local authorities and church and faith groups, and working to crime reduction and social cohesion. This year has already seen royal visits to community groups on the island, King's Awards for enterprise and voluntary service being announced, with other events being planned for later in the year.
WI's Island-wide take part in Bake-Off competition from Isle of Wight Observer, read by Chris. 5 different WIs across the island took part in a bake-off competition at the Downside Centre, Newport, on Monday. Whitwell, Bryston, Shanklin Hyde, Alveston and the Rydettes each sent along a pair of hopeful bakers to participate in the inaugural challenge organised by Georgina Moon, who hopes they will become a regular feature of the WI programme on the island. Each pair worked together to make shortbread using the same WI recipe, as well as making biscuits of their own choice. The standard of entries was extremely high and included custard creams, choc chip cookies, rhubarb and custard biscuits and ginger nuts. Rachel Thompson, the manager of the community centre, was asked to judge the entries and had a difficult job in choosing the winners. After tasting all the biscuits, Rachel declared that Karen Dyke and Gail Scott from Alveston WI were the overall winners, who were ably assisted by their ever-helpful mascot, Alvira. Everyone agreed that the afternoon had been a great success and were looking forward to further WI Bake-Off events planned for later in the year.
This is Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled "Freshwater Parish Council passes £50,000 gift to nature grant landmark with latest donation." Freshwater Parish Council has been awarding community grants to Gift to Nature for several years and continues to invite organisations to apply for funding. A spokesperson for Freshwater Parish Council said, "We have a long-standing tradition of supporting Gift to Nature through community grants, having contributed over £50,000 over the years. In the year 2023-24 alone, the Council awarded an £8,000 grant to this valuable organisation. This funding plays a vital role in maintaining and enhancing local natural sites that are beloved by the community. High Sheriff Graham Biss, Managing Director Gift to Nature, added, "Freshwater Parish Council's support for Afton Marsh and Golden Hill Country Park Gift to Nature sites is greatly appreciated and important to keep these wonderful sites open and free to use. Afton Marsh and Golden Hill are some of Gift to Nature's most used and loved sites. Last year, we were delighted to welcome both Freshwater and Yarmouth and Shelfleet primary schools to Golden Hill Country Park for a day of outdoor learning."
This is Brian reading an item from Isle of Wight Radio. Freshwater Skate Park planning permission granted. Freshwater thrill seekers are celebrating after the town received long anticipated planning permission for its skate park. This marks a significant milestone for the community and brings them one step closer to providing a proposed new facility and community space for people of all ages. A spokesperson for Freshwater Skate Park said, "We would like to express a heartfelt thank you to everyone involved. This accomplishment would not have been possible without the unwavering support and dedication of numerous individuals and organisations. We extend our deepest gratitude. Your voices and support have been instrumental in bringing this project to life." With planning permission secured, the next goal is to raise the necessary funds to make the Freshwater Skate Park a reality. To that end, a GoFundMe page has been set up, which is available to donate to. The spokesperson continued, "We are looking for businesses and individuals who are interested in supporting the skate park through sponsorship. This is a fantastic opportunity to invest in our community and leave a lasting legacy. Your support is vital to the success of this project. Together, we can create a state-of-the-art skate park that will serve as a hub for recreation, creativity, and community spirit."
This is Chris reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. New memorial cairn rededicated at Northwood Cemetery. The memorial has been constructed from the fragments of headstones damaged during a Luftwaffe raid on shipbuilding and aircraft manufacturing facilities in Cowes during the Second World War. In the early hours of Tuesday, the 27th of May 1941, a stray bomb dropped on what is known as Plot 5, immediately behind the East Chapel, causing devastating damage to graves and headstones and also to nearby trees and both chapels. It is said that the crater produced from the bomb could have swallowed up a double-decker bus, and debris was strewn far and wide. Two local ARP wardens, Frederick James Wapshott, 34, of Albert Road, Gurnard, and Frederick George Sykes, 49, of Newport Road, Cowes, were involved in the restoration of the disturbed graves. Both sadly died shortly afterwards, having contracted diseases from the work involved. In recent years, the Friends of Northwood Cemetery Grounds team have randomly discovered broken pieces of headstone around the bombed area that were difficult to identify and therefore replaced to their original locations. The trustees elected to have a cairn erected on Plot 5, utilising many of the fragments of headstones uncovered in memory of those disturbed in their graves that terrible morning. The design and construction were carried out by local craftsmen, Adam Aisling and Phil Watling, and a dedication ceremony was led by the Reverend David Heatley last month. He also blessed the newly installed stained glass reredos on the altar in the East Chapel. A reredos is a large altarpiece, a screen or decoration placed behind the altar in a church. The panel was designed and made by Dennis Bradbury. The housing, designed by Jeff Banks, made and kindly donated by Laurie Borer. The funding for both the cairn and the reredos was provided through the efforts of Friends of Northwood Cemetery, who worked tirelessly to make Northwood Cemetery a welcoming green space within the town, providing a venue for locals to meet on a social basis and support in locating the graves of lost loved ones.
New Art Rock Trio to debut at Isle of Wight Festival. From Isle of Wight Radio, read by Chris. A trio of new artworks created by pop artist Morgan Howell, FRSA, to mark 3 legendary Isle of Wight Festival performances are to be unveiled at this year's event. The artist has produced 2 spectacular new silkscreen editions depicting David Bowie's Rebel Rebel and the Rolling Stones single Brown Sugar. Bowie opened his memorable set, his last ever on UK soil, with the song at the festival in 2004, while the Stones performed their track on the Isle of Wight 3 years later. Singer Mick Jagger also duetted with Amy Winehouse during his band's headline performance, with Amy also playing a solo set that year, which included her classic Back to Black. Morgan's original painting of that song will also be shown to the public for the first time, with a total of 20 pieces at the festival exhibition from June the 20th to the 23rd, 2024. The artwork, which contains a real piece of giant white vinyl in a distressed black canvas sleeve, was previously only seen privately at the recent global premiere of Amy's biopic of the same name. There it was admired by Amy's father Mitch, the film's director Sam Taylor Johnson, and soundtrack composers Nick Cave and Bad Seed Warren Ellis. The silk screens feature up to 12 colours with a satin varnish and measure 1 metre square. They were printed by world-leading printmakers and publishers Coriander Studio, who work with the godfather of pop art Sir Peter Blake and Damien Hirst. Morgan decided to release the silkscreens due to public demand for certain of his sold-out original supersized paintings and artists' editions. The Stones and Bowie artworks are the first in a series of releases marking classic singles. Both are printed on lush Saunders Waterford 425 GSM paper, but production numbers are strictly capped at 50. Morgan personally oversaw production of the silkscreens at Coriander Studios' famous HQ in southwest London. He says, "This is my 3rd consecutive exhibition at the Isle of Wight Festival, and I wanted to mark it by producing works depicting 3 artists who played some of the most memorable shows here. Amy, the Stones and Bowie are 3 of my favourite performers, so it seemed apt to bring them to the island once more. My supersized paintings and editions of songs like Rebel Rebel and Brown Sugar sold out long ago, and I wanted to make such titles available to more people as there was such demand. This is also the first time fans outside of the world film premiere will be able to see Back to Black up close. I'd like to thank the festival's mastermind John Giddings for asking me to the island once again." Giddings picked out the Stones and Bowie headline sets as 2 of his favourites, remarking, "That was David's last ever show in the UK. Sad but true. I remember introducing him to Tim Burgess of the Charlatans, and Bowie turned round to me and said, 'John, when did I play here last?' I said, 'You've never played here.' And talking about the Rolling Stones, the promoter added, 'I got the opportunity because Keith Richards had fallen out of a tree, which meant we had to reschedule some dates. I'd sold the festival out and I had chance to put the Stones on, and I thought, sod it, If I get run over on Monday morning, at least I've brought the Rolling Stones to the Isle of Wight.
This is Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled Headline Authors Announced as 2024 Isle of Wight Literary Festival Launched. The Northwood House-based event, running from October the 3rd to the 6th, will also feature new events, an expanded schools programme, plus, for the first time, an event outside of its traditional base in Cowes. Sir Michael Morpurgo will deliver a spectacular concert version of his much-loved book, Warhorse, at Medina Theatre in Newport. Speakers lined up to appear in the festival's traditional venues in Cowes, principally Northwood House, include former MP and television personality Giles Brandreth, TV lexicographer and countdown star Susie Dent, and General Sir Michael Jackson, GCB, CBE, DSO, DL, one of the British Army's most high-profile generals since the Second World War. Also appearing will be former Government Minister, the Right Honourable the Lord Fowler, celebrated music writer and publisher David Hepworth, author and wine expert Helen McGinn, historian Tracy Borman, Atlantic rower Simon Howes, and reporter-turned-author Martin Sixsmith, who returns to the festival following a sellout appearance last year. As well as a stream of highly renowned authors, the festival will also feature a new jazz event and the return of the popular Fizz Quiz on Thursday, October the 3rd at 7:30 at the Island Sailing Club. The Lit Fest also returns, bringing a smorgasbord of talks and demonstrations to tickle the palate and feed the brain. Isle of Wight Literary Festival Chairman Maggie Ankers said, "There are still a number of authors to be confirmed, and we know that there is something for everybody during the 4-day event. In the 13 years the festival has been running, we have brought some top names to the Isle of Wight, and the reputation of our festival continues to grow in the literary world. Moreover, we have established an entertaining and stimulating event that can be enjoyed by residents and visitors of all ages."
This is Brian reading an article from On the Wight. Southern Water rolls out new AI-controlled gates to cut storm overflow. New AI technology will be installed for the first time this month as part of ongoing efforts to reduce storm overflows. The network will benefit from a product called Centaur Gates that uses artificial intelligence to respond to storm water in the system in real time, which utilises capacity within the existing pipe network to store it, preventing spills from the target storm overflow. The gate actively controls flow during any storm event, balancing the use of that existing capacity against the levels in the storm overflow. This helps prevent spills and enabling excess water to be passed to our treatment works for processing rather than it being released through a storm overflow. On the Isle of Wight, one of these gates has been installed at Terminus Road in Cowes, and 2 further gates will be installed in Whitstable at Diamond Road and Tankerton Circus in the coming months. They are some of the first locations in the United Kingdom to benefit from this technology. The work is part of our Pathfinder projects that look at nature-based and engineering solutions to slow the flow of water entering our network to reduce storm overflows. Using state-of-the-art technology is an important part of Clean Rivers and Seas plan that sets out how £1.5 billion will be spent between 2025 and 2035 to deliver long-term solutions that get to the root cause of storm overflow use. Southern Water's Pathfinder lead for the Isle of Wight, Keith Herbert, said, "We're keen to explore innovative new ways, including cutting-edge technology like this, to help reduce storm overflows. We believe if this is successful, it has the potential to be a game changer as it is more cost effective and less carbon heavy than other methods like building storm tanks. This adds to the work we're already doing in Whitstable and on the Isle of Wight to reduce storm overflows through installing water butts and utilising sustainable urban drainage solutions and improving our network. It is hoped this technology will reduce storm overflows in these areas, and its introduction and could pave the way for more of them to be introduced across Hampshire, Kent, Sussex and the Isle of Wight. James Hale, EMS Smart Wastewater Director, said, "The Clean Rivers and Seas Task Force have been proactive in adopting the Centaur system to provide autonomous local control of storm overflows within the Pathfinder catchments. The projects have moved at pace to deliver environmental improvements for their customers, who are excited to continue to support Southern Water to reduce storm overflow discharges across the region."
This is Chris reading an article from Island Echo. Red Funnel champions inclusivity with facility upgrades and industry accreditation. Red Funnel has been awarded a Leader Level Award in the government's Inclusive Transport Leaders Scheme by championing inclusivity through facility upgrades and staff training. The ITLS is the highest level of accreditation possible, a status held by only 2 other transport operators in the UK. It is managed by the Department for Transport and administered by Transport Focus, an independent watchdog organisation. The scheme aims to encourage transport operators to improve their services for people with disabilities and mobility challenges, ensuring that everyone can travel with dignity, independence and ease. The Cross Solent operator's new website has been hailed as part of the overall offering, with more detail about accessibility and a step-by-step map of the passenger experience. Once at the terminals and on board, customers can now expect thoughtful service from Red Funnel team members. Staff working on the East Cowes to Southampton routes have been specially trained in supporting customers with both hidden and visible disabilities. Behind the scenes, Red Funnel also offers additional assistance via a dedicated support colleague in the role of customer services specialist and accessibility support. The role serves to offer customers more a personalised booking experience, including support from obtaining NHS discounts, travel advice and more. For those with physical accessibility needs, Red Funnel has recently unveiled its state-of-the-art Changing Places accessible toilet facility at its Southampton Red Jet terminal. The industry-leading facility includes an adult-sized changing bench, powered overhead hoists with an adjustable pulley system, grab rails, an adjustable wash basin and radar key access. For additional support and information, Red Funnel has gone one step further by displaying Know Your Rights signage across the business together, with printed handouts which are also available in Braille. Fran Collins, CEO of Red Funnel, has said, "We are delighted to be recognised as a leader in inclusivity within the transport sector. This achievement is thanks to the collaborative efforts of our team, which has worked closely with our customers to understand their needs. Everything we do is designed to support the needs of our passenger, from the moment a booking is made through to our onboard facilities and up until passengers disembark ready for their onward journey. We are committed to continually improving our service, and there's plenty more to come as we enhance the travel experience for all our customers.
Ride Beach lifeguards team up with local schools for Sea Safe programme, read by Chris. Ride Beach lifeguards delivered their drowning prevention programme in Sandown this month, with their last session taking place on Wednesday. The programme is sponsored by Southern Water and supported by Sandown Town Council. Sea Safe is delivered by the beach lifeguards and is an educational and immersive programme that acts as a drowning prevention measure by RBLG. The school groups learn about the dangers associated with the beach, such as rip currents, cold water shock and sun safety. The students also learn about the lifeguard flags, how to summon help and initially survival skills in the sea. The programme was delivered to the following schools: The Bay, St Blasius Ryde School, Dover Park, Oakfield, Broadley, St Mary's, Queensgate, Nettleston, St Francis and Bembridge Primary Schools. Beach manager Todd Miller said, "It was a great joy for our team to deliver the programme to so many local schools again this year in readiness for the summer season. It is a vital part of our service, and we hope that in sharing our knowledge with local school pupils, it will ensure local drownings are prevented, enabling us all to enjoy our beautiful beaches safely this summer." A huge thank you to Southern Water and Sandown Town Council for their invaluable support in enabling us to deliver Sea Safe for yet another year.
This is Alison reading an article from On the White entitled "New Microchipping Law for Cats in England Comes into Effect. Make sure you avoid the £500 fine." Cat owners who have not had their pets microchipped face fines of up to £500 after new regulations came into force from Monday the 10th of June 2024. The new regulations in England require all cats aged 20 weeks and older to be microchipped. The electronic chips are inserted under the skin and contain essential details about the cat and its owner. These chips can be instrumental in identifying a pet that has been lost or stolen, providing peace of mind to cat owners. Dogs are already subject to microchipping requirements from 8 weeks of age. According to the animal charity, the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, about 22% of cats are currently not microchipped. This new legislation aims to address this gap, ensuring more cats are easily identifiable if they go missing. Cat owners now have a legal obligation to comply with the microchipping regulations. Failure to do so can result in significant fines, with penalties reaching up to £500. The government advises pet owners to visit their local vet to have the procedure carried out. The process is quick, relatively painless, and could make a significant difference in reuniting lost pets with their owners.
Australian veteran cricketers set to play at New Close on Isle of Wight tour stop. From On the White, read by Chris. They are coming from a land down under for a few weeks of cricket in England, and New Close on the Isle of Wight is on their list. The Kangaroos and Koalas squads of 33 Aussies and 3 New Zealanders arrive in the UK next week for a 12-game Castles tour taking in Balmoral, Windsor Castle, Bamburgh and a number of Britain's most beautiful cricket grounds during their 3-week visit. The veteran cricketers, all over 60, will arrive on the island on June the 18th for 2 2020 games at picturesque New Close, taking on Isle of Wight over 50s XLS. Derek Braidner, tour manager, said, "Coming to the Isle of Wight is not just about cricket. How could we not include it on this unique cricket tour?" This region of England has played a huge part in our own history, and we are very excited about playing at this premier ground. And I had no hesitation about including it in our list of magnificent grounds we have been invited to play at. Many of the tour party have played a lot of high-class cricket at home. Derek said, "We have cricketers from all over Australia, with 3 Kiwis in the party as well. I have been organising tours like this for 15 years, taking Australian vets teams all around the world, from Hawaii to Japan and Jamaica, as well as the UK." Nick Heelan, the ECB's Isle of Wight Cricket Development Manager, said, "We are greatly looking forward to welcoming this Australian touring side and hope to use this to galvanise even further local interest in seniors cricket and the many physical, mental and social benefits it can offer." Hugh Griffiths, Chair of Trustees at New Close, said, "The late Brian Gardner, who built this amazing facility, would have been delighted to see it being used for an occasion such as this. Entry on the day is free, and the players will meet the Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff from 9:30 in the morning. The itinerary is then 11 to 1:30, first T20 match versus Isle of Wight over 50s, captained by Simon Goldsmith, break from 1:30 to 2 till 5:30, second T20 match versus Isle of Wight over 50s, and 6 until 8 p.m, dinner and socialisation."
Hello, I'm John.
And I'm Lynn.
Here are the news items from this week's county press. Island hero Roy centre stage at D-Day event by John Marino. A decorated Second World War veteran from the Isle of Wight, Roy Hayward, was recognised as a national hero at the D-Day 80th anniversary commemoration in Portsmouth. It was an event televised worldwide by the BBC and watched by millions. Roy of Seaview lost both his legs at the age of 19 when the tank he was in was attacked in Normandy. A recipient of France's highest military honour, the Légion d'honneur, Roy took centre stage as the nation remembered the many who took part in the Normandy landings on June 6, 1944. Roy, now aged 99, was given a standing ovation and was later met and thanked by members of the royal family and other senior figures. But, like so many who saw action during the war, Roy did not talk publicly about his experiences, keeping them locked inside for many years. Roy joined the Sherwood Rangers Yeomanry Tank Regiment in May that year and landed on Gold Beach in Normandy. Mr. Hayward was in a reserve tank crew and followed in the evening in an ammunition lorry. But following heavy casualties, Roy was soon called to take his place in a tank, and on June 25th, while proceeding down a lane near Fontenay, was hit twice by shells, the second of which exploded in the tank, which immediately caught fire. His right leg was completely shattered below the knee, and part of his left foot was missing. But ignoring his wounds, Roy managed to drag himself out of the tank turret and dropped to the ground, slightly burned. Roy was then taken to a field hospital, where both his legs were amputated below the knee. After the war, Roy resumed his banking career in London, then Surrey, before moving to the island in the 1970s. The national television coverage of D-Day 80 included ITV's commemorative concert at the Royal Albert Hall on Sunday. In June 1944, Sheila Webble was living on the Isle of Wight while her husband was away serving in the army. Sheila wrote a diary about the war in the form of a letter to her baby son Tristram. She could see the D-Day fleet growing in number on the Solent. Quote, "If anything happens to me, at least it'll tell you that I love you very dearly," she wrote. Outside, the sea was a mass of ships, landing barges of every shape and size, sort and craft, so extraordinary we couldn't even begin to guess what they were there for. Never have I seen so many ships. It was difficult to see an inch of water between them, and what a target. Night after night, day after day, we waited for the Germans to start their bombing attacks, but they never came.
Heartbroken at Art Deco eyesore. The leader of the Isle of Wight Council says he expects better from the owners of Ventnor Winter Gardens, as their building is becoming an eyesore when it should be a jewel in the town's crown. The iconic Art Deco style building, which used to be in public ownership, was closed by the Isle of Wight Council in 2011. It was purchased by the Hambra Group for just £1 soon after and reopened as a private enterprise, its owners vowing to bring it back to life and make it the heart of the Ventnor community. Councillor Phil Jordan said the council has little to no power over the private owners. He says he is disappointed and alarmed by the deterioration of the building. I expect better from the owners and call upon them to do the right thing by providing upkeep and maintenance as needed, said Councillor Jordan. It's becoming an eyesore. It should be a jewel in the crown for Ventnor. Sadly, it's become neglected. I have asked council officers to contact the owners with a view to engaging and supporting the required works at the owner's expense. A statement from Ventnor Town Council said, "We are concerned about the continued poor state of repair and would like to see the building maintained and brought to a level of public use once again. The Art Deco building needs urgent attention and the Town Council is supportive of any appropriate measures that brings the building back into use for our important tourism trade, a lifeline for our town and the island." In 2022, the building's roof was damaged during Storm Beatrice, and Suzanne Wright for the Hambra Group said they are still waiting on the insurance company to pay out. "When the storms hit, we had no idea this would drag out the way it has," said Suzanne. "We certainly do not want the building to look the way it does. We want it to be used by the community." The Art Deco building is steeped in history. The stage has hosted many great names, including Davy Jones, who honed his act as a resident band in the summer of 1965, to emerge as David Bowie less than a month later. But Suzanne said the insurance company has not paid out a penny and is now in the hands of the financial ombudsman and solicitors. The country's severe financial crisis, particularly affecting the hospitality and entertainment industries, has also been cited as a factor. Among those to share their concerns was Jane Holloway of the Bistro on Pier Street. While the state of the Winter Gardens has no impact on our trade itself, it is frequently the topic of conversation with locals and visitors alike, said Jane. Many of the older folk have fond memories of tea dances or gigs and of bands they saw there in its heyday. They are truly distraught by the state of its disrepair. How can the owners get away with letting such a beloved Art Deco building become an eyesore? It is just heartbreaking.
Wildlife Path Warning by John Marino. Island police are urging people to stick to public footpaths when visiting nature reserves, following a report of a man disturbing a number of nesting birds at Brading Marsh. Police received a report of the man climbing over a fence and trespassing onto a private area of the RSPB's Brading Marsh Nature Reserve to photograph birds, disturbing and flushing a number of birds in the process, they said. Brading Marsh, designated as a site of special scientific interest, is home to a number of protected species of wild bird, ground nesting birds such as lapwing, which is susceptible to disturbance, and other Schedule 1 birds, some of which breed at the marsh annually. Under the Wildlife and Countryside Act 1981, Schedule 1, birds are afforded special protection. For a full list of Schedule 1 birds, visit the British Trust for Ornithology website. PC Diane Reid from the police's Country Watch team on the island said, "Brading Marsh is the island's only RSPB reserve and is home to an array of fascinating species, including rare visitors and a number of protected species that breed every year. Trespassing on the protected areas of the reserve will disturb the birds, as was seen in this case, and at this time of year this activity could deter them from breeding or nest building altogether, or cause them to abandon their nests or young. We are a nation of wildlife lovers, and there is a strong community of wildlife and bird enthusiasts and photographers on the Isle of Wight, the vast majority of which behave responsibly and put the welfare of the wildlife first. Unfortunately, incidents such as this highlight a small minority who pose a risk to our native wildlife. Please stick to public footpaths at any beauty spot across the island to ensure you are not disturbing birds during the breeding season. Anyone with information about wildlife crime is urged to report it to police on 101 or via the report tool on the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary website. Dial 999 if a crime is in progress.
Firefighters battle second blaze at Old Island Hotel. A fire at a derelict hotel in Sandown prompted a large emergency response late on Wednesday night. 5 fire engines and crews from Sandown, Shanklin, Ryde, Ventnor and Newport were alerted to the former Signet Hotel on Carter Street at its junction with the Broadway. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service received reports of smoke issuing from the building at 10:30 p.m. Crews arrived on scene shortly after, and an aerial ladder platform and mobile incident command unit were used. Residents were advised to keep their windows and doors closed due to smoke from the blaze. Firefighters were able to contain the fire using main jets, hose reel jets, and thermal imaging cameras. The cause of the blaze is currently unknown. It's the second time this month firefighters have been called to the building. On June the 5th, crews dealt with a small fire in the basement area. It is understood that the fire hadn't been reported to the police as a crime.
Drunk woman kicked a Fever nightclub doorman by court reporter. A woman kicked a nightclub doorman in the testicles and caused chaos with a toilet in her holding cell. Amy Beer of Scarrott's Lane, Newport, appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates on Tuesday, May 28th. The 23-year-old admitted assault by beating and 2 counts of assault by beating of an emergency worker in Newport on February 11th. Prosecutor Liz Miller said Beer had been denied entry to Fever nightclub by door staff at around 1 a.m. She said she waited around the entrance and made repeated attempts to gain access, becoming argumentative. Miss Miller said she went on to kick a member of the door staff in the testicles, and the incident was caught on CCTV. The court heard Beer was arrested and walked to the police station, where she became abusive toward officers, spitting on the floor in her holding cell. Miss Miller said she continued to cause issues and was on constant watch. At around 3:10 a.m, the court heard she stuffed her pillow in the toilet, and later that morning she made attempts to flush her blanket down the toilet. Miss Miller said Beer headbutted an officer while flinging her hands and legs, and during another struggle she bent a second officer's fingers back. The court heard she made repeated attempts to leave her cell and was extremely drunk. Michael McGoldrick, defending, said Beer had already been handed a suspended sentence at the Crown Court for a different matter, and these offences predated that order. Beer saw her case adjourned to June 28th at the Isle of Wight Crown Court. She was granted conditional bail and told she must not enter Fever nightclub.
Ireland's Brandon ready to step it up for the US Open. After realising his dream of playing in the British Open Championships last year, Isle of Wight golf star Brandon Robinson Thompson will be keeping it alive in another major, the US Open. The West Wight man, 31, teed off yesterday, Thursday, with Jason Scrivener from Australia and US amateur Brendan Valdez at one of the most iconic golf courses in the world, Pinehurst No. 2 in North Carolina. Brandon, who plays much of his golf in South Carolina, will be hoping to take advantage of playing in the familiar surroundings ahead of his second major appearance. He currently plays on the Challenge Tour, earning his spot through final qualifying at Walton Heath last month. Brandon, who won a golfing scholarship at the University of South Carolina, has played in the Carolinas for 7 years, so knows the pine and sand terrain very well. I've lived in the US for nearly 9 years. My wife's American and it's going to be incredible, Brandon told DP World Tour Media. I feel like it's meant to be. I got my visa and got married last November. It's going to be really cool. Playing in big tournaments on a bigger stage, having people there you know, is the best feeling ever. I've heard about Pinehurst and its history, so I'm super stoked. I'm very excited to get going and taste a bit of this history. Since the turn of the year, Brandon has played 6 tournaments and has seen his world ranking slip from 367 to his current 468. His best finish this year has been a tie for 13th in the Abu Dhabi Challenge. It's going to be so fun. My wife's family and old teammates are coming, and I've got 3 friends from the Isle of Wight here with me already, he said.
Roadworks will have impact on villages by Laurie Little. Residents in Ventnor are bracing themselves for the upcoming closure of the Graben, but the major work will impact outlying villages too. A section of Newport Road, Ventnor, known as the Graben, separates Upper and Lower Ventnor and is set to be closed for emergency sewer works to prevent a sinkhole appearing. It will be closed by Southern Water from June 24th for approximately 2 weeks, which means no vehicles will be able to pass. With Leeson Road already closed following a landslide in December, this means the only way out of Ventnor will be through the small rural village of Whitwell. Ventnor residents have been notified of the upcoming changes via a letter in the post from Southern Water. When traffic heading out of Ventnor reaches Whitwell Church, it will not be permitted through the village of Whitwell and onwards to Newport, but must turn left and go towards Knighton, the letter explains. Those travelling into Ventnor will be able to drive from Godshill to Whitwell and on to Ventnor along a one-way section. At the end of May, the county press asked the Isle of Wight Council if the diversion routes would be checked for visibility, as there were some overgrown areas, such as the junction of Southfords Lane and the Newport Knighton Road. Work has since been done to make the route clearer. Should there be any emergencies, Leeson Road can still be used as an entry point to Ventnor by the emergency services. This has been the case since the landslide. Although the Graben work is set to cause inconvenience, Southern Water said if the work is not done, the sinkhole could cause the road to collapse. The road closure is slated for 2 weeks, but residents are warned that should additional works be identified during the repair, the closure could last longer. Southern Vectis is due to announce its plans, which will include a shuttle bus service from Upper Ventnor. The Isle of Wight Council is to announce some temporary parking restrictions within the diversion to optimise traffic flows. These will be advertised in advance.
The D-Day 80 at Victoria Recreation Ground. Large crowds gathered in Newport on Saturday to celebrate D-Day 80 with a day of free entertainment. The event was a huge success and culminated with a parade from Drill Hall Road to Victoria Recreation Ground, organised by Simon Tutton of the Royal British Legion and led by the Highland Pipes and Drums. Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon took the salute, and marchers formed in front of the stage for a speech by her, with a moving performance from Barton Primary, followed by a 2-minute silence. The event was organised by Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council, with many people taking advantage of a free ride on the Old Girl bus, which acted as a shuttle between the event and Church Lytton. Entertainment through the day was provided by Bob Howarth Big Band, with Ems White, Sandown and Shanklin Military Band and singer Martin Hoy. Jive Revive gave a Lindy Hop dance lesson in the marquee, while Gary Newman from the Commonwealth War Graves Commission assisted at least 20 families to find out information on their relatives who had fought during the war. Vectis 40s Vintage filled the Pavilion Hall, showing people what life was like during wartime, including a wartime shop set up. Restore the Story told people about auxiliary units and Pluto. There were displays from White Military and Heritage Museum with a Winston Churchill impersonator. Friends of ORP Blitzkowicka, the Royal British Legion and Bembridge Fort Trust, as well as a selection of stalls. Time Jump Histories explained the story of Operation Overlord and put young people through their paces on a small assault course.
Making sure you're on the right side of the fence. Fences and neighbours can often be a tricky subject, from who's responsible for what side to leaning items against fences and who can do what with the fence. You might be planning on putting up a fence but are worried that your neighbour might not like it. So you may first want to check whether they can disprove the fence and stop you from putting one up before you spend money on the garden feature. To help you out, here are the important rules and regulations to know when it comes to fences and neighbour disputes. Can a neighbour stop me from putting up a fence? Typically, a neighbour can only refuse for you to put a fence up if it oversteps their boundary. To ensure your fence does not enter their land, you should first check exactly where the boundary lies between your own home and your neighbour's. If you're not sure what your boundary is, you could check your house deeds for the property, which should contain a plan of the land. If you do not have access to your property's boundary, you can check the deeds online, here via the government website. Otherwise, you can purchase plans from the Land Registry, which allows you to buy both your own and neighbours' documents to ensure you know the boundary. If you find that there are no records of the property's boundaries, your best bet is to make new ones, which you can do as long as your neighbour approves of the signs too. For cases which see neighbours disagree with boundaries, then your final result will be seeking help from legal advice. Can I change my neighbour's fence? Citizens' advice states that you may not alter your side of the neighbour's fence without their permission. Can a neighbour paint their side of my fence? Your neighbour also doesn't have to change their wall or fence, such as to make it higher for more privacy, just because you want them to. If you believe the fence is dangerous, you should point this out to them, as they may not be aware of the risk. Also, if they do not repair the dangerous wall or fence, you should contact your local authority.
A Freshwater 5 cocaine smuggler admits stalking. One of the Freshwater 5, jailed for 18 years in 2011 for smuggling cocaine worth £53 million into the UK, but released on licence in 2020, has admitted stalking a woman for 6 weeks. Daniel Payne was due to stand trial at Isle of Wight Magistrates Court after he denied stalking without fear, alarm or distress between September the 1st and October the 11th, 2023. But on Friday, June the 7th, Payne changed his plea to guilty before appearing before magistrates on Tuesday, June the 11th. Payne of Kings Road, East Cowes, admitted harassing his ex-girlfriend by sending her texts, messages on social media and unwanted gifts, meeting her and using others to try to contact her. By the time a complaint was lodged with the police on June the 14th, 2023, Payne had been harassing his victim for 6 weeks, the court heard. The victim said the 49-year-old had been sending her numerous unwanted messages on WhatsApp and Instagram after she told him their relationship was over, said Liz Miller, prosecuting. Other examples of his harassment included him pushing a bag of clothing to her through her car window, which he said, "It looks better on you than me." He also asked her to pop round for coffee and see his house, and after he had been nighttime fishing, Payne turned up at her home. The victim told him she did not want to see him again, and he eventually left, but returned and left her flowers and a fish curry, the court was told. Payne's harassment also included his attempts to contact her via friends and her sister. The woman told the police Payne made her frightened because of his past. Payne had spent 9 years in jail for drug smuggling in a case which made national media headlines. Along with 4 others co-convicted, Payne was said to have collected the drugs from the English Channel in a fishing boat in 2010. An appeal against Payne's sentence failed in 2021. For Payne, Oscar Vincent said his client had been naive about relationships due to being in prison for so long. The ending of the relationship hit him hard. He only wanted answers on why they'd split up, said Mr. Vincent. Magistrates ordered a report on Payne and bailed him to reappear for sentencing on July the 26th.
WIs out in force at the Albert Hall. A total of 21 different WIs from across the island joined forces to attend the National WI annual meeting at the Royal Albert Hall in London. More than 40 island members were represented from the 29 WIs based here, with Federation Chairman Sue Biss saying, "Many WIs had multiple members attend. We go in several types of attendees, the Federation officers, Chairman, Treasurer and Secretary, then our 3 advisors and 8 delegates who represent up to 4 WIs each to make sure that all branches in the island are represented, and we then had 25 additional observers. We are always offered less tickets, but every year the island comes up trumps and buys more tickets which other federations haven't taken up. Given that we are one of the smaller federations in the national grouping and have the ferry journey to contend with, we always come out in force." The meeting was the final one for the national chairman, Anne Jones, who stepped down after 3 years. Our speakers were Nazir Afzal, who spoke about his time throughout his career as a leading advocate for women's rights. We then had a fireside chat with Mel B from the Spice Girls, interviewed by Victoria Derbyshire on her own experiences. We even managed a question from one of our ladies as to whether she would come with the other Spice Girls back to the island. Finally, we had another interview with type speaker presentation with Timothy Watson, who played Rob Titchener from The Archers, together with Women's Aid. It was interesting, thought-provoking and amazing to hear Jerusalem sung by 5,000 women.
Island Family Walking Accolade. The Isle of Wight has been named as one of the best places in the UK and Europe for a family walking holiday. With golden beaches and dinosaur footprints stamped in ancient rock, the Telegraph says the island knows how to tempt kids out onto 2 feet. Compiling a list of 10 places, the national newspaper looked at the best options for families around Europe. On the island, it gave special mention to one walk in particular, the Tennyson Trail. The article says child-friendly trails crisscross the island, and a firm favourite is a 7-mile track across Tennyson Down. It leads out to the white chalk stacks of the Needles and the amusements of Allen Bay, which include fairground rides, glass blowing and a chairlift down to the beach with its multicoloured sandy cliffs. The Tennyson Trail is a 7-mile National Trust walk, which can be split into 2 shorter walks.
Taxi passenger killed in horrific road crash. One person has died and another was seriously injured following a major crash on a main road on Saturday morning. The Downs Road at Brading was closed by police following a road traffic incident at around 11:20 a.m. The collision involved 2 vehicles, a Hyundai taxi and a Land Rover, which was towing a trailer. The taxi passenger, a 77-year-old woman from Newport, died at the scene. A spokesperson for Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary said her next of kin had been informed and are being supported by specialist officers. The driver of the Hyundai, a 40-year-old man from Newport, suffered serious injuries and is currently being treated at hospital. Officers would like to speak to anyone who was in the area at the time of the incident. Did you witness the collision, or did you see the vehicles travelling in the area? Do you have a dash cam fitted to your vehicle which may have caught footage of the incident? If you have any information, please contact us as soon as possible online or on 101, quoting 442 402 405 38.
A service to honour D-Day landing's anniversary. A wreath was laid in the Solent following a special D-Day 80 commemorative service at Brading Haven Yacht Club. A service of remembrance was conducted by the Reverend Deacon Gary May, following a welcome by Robin Lobb, the club's Commodore, last Thursday. Representatives of Limbless Veterans charity Blesma, of which Seaview man Roy Hayward, aged 99, is a leading member, together with representatives of Bembridge RNLI, attended. The lowering of the Normandy flag to the solemn sound of the last post, played by retired Welsh Guards WO2 Mitch Jones, was followed by the national observation of 2-minute silence and then reveille. Retired Royal Marines officer Lieutenant Colonel Mike Samuelson of Bembridge reflected on the sacrifices made in Normandy 80 years ago, with his rendition of The Fallen. The act of remembrance was recited by retired Royal Navy officer Captain Jeff Cowan. Retired Royal Navy officer CPO FAA Keith Partington also reflected on the occasion, reciting D-Day Remembered. John Brodie also accompanied the hymn Abide With Me during the service and performed Flowers of the Forest. He plays the bagpipes. A wreath was then laid on the water off of St Helens Fort.
30 tourist pods get the go-ahead by John Marino. Tapnell Farm has been granted planning permission to build more than 30 tourism pods on its site. At a meeting of the Isle of Wight Council's Planning Committee, councillors approved the plan for the new holiday accommodation at Tapnell Farm near Freshwater by 8 votes to 1. The scheme for 32 pods, which could accommodate up to 128 at full capacity, was originally debated in June last year. Councillors supported the plans in principle, despite fears of overdevelopment. The tourism pods are earmarked chiefly for groups associated with Camp Libertas, which offers activity holidays for children. The pods would be available to rent year-round, while Camp Libertas' use would mainly be during the summer months, replacing tents. The matter was called in and more information was requested about disability access, the impact of nitrates, and how the land would be managed. When presented again, councillors were generally enthusiastic about the plans and what they offer young children. However, although Councillor Vanessa Churchman was full of praise for what Tapnell Farm has achieved as an attraction, she did not like the design of the pods. I cannot understand how Tapnell Farm managed to produce such an ugly set of buildings, she said. There's absolutely nothing nice about them. You've got these little square boxes which do nothing for the landscape. They could be vastly improved. West White councillor Peter Spink, however, questioned Tapnell Farm's assertion that the land on which the pods are to be built were being used agriculturally, namely for silage cropping and sheep grazing, and the issue of nitrate content in the land, questioning Natural England's calculation. There is no evidence of agriculture in the plans. It didn't look like much agriculture going on when we did a site visit in June last year, said Councillor Spink. The plans attracted letters of support for the tourism it could potentially bring, a local jobs boost and education. Yarmouth Town Council objected to the scheme. Among those backing the plan are Visit Isle of Wight and the Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce. Go to publicnoticeportal.uk to find details of Isle of Wight planning applications and other public notices near you via a clickable and searchable interactive map. See public notices this week on page 62.
New Baltic Sauna Antidote for Stresses and Strains by Zach Saunders. A traditional Lithuanian wood-fired sauna has opened to the public at Compton Bay as part of Islanders Robbie and Josie DeBank's wellness brand offering Slow Motion. Perched at the top of the headland, owned by the National Trust, the mobile structure has capacity for 6 people to enjoy. Users will have stunning vistas across the bay through a panoramic mirrored window, while enjoying the benefits sweat bathing has to offer. Camp Festival founder and DJ Rob DeBank said, "Not only are saunas amazing for your mental and physical health, but they are a great reason to turn off, tune out and drop in, being offline and connecting with friends and people in real life whilst recharging the batteries." Following last year's success at Freshwater Bay, we are thrilled to be able to continue to offer an island sauna for the community and visitors to enjoy. Saunas are celebrated for their health benefits, including relaxation, improved circulation, lower blood pressure, enhanced immune function, reduced joint pain, and boosted mood. The DeBanks will be looking forward to work with local charities and community-based initiatives that help and support people that could benefit. Slow Motion is dedicated to offering wellness solutions that counter the stresses of 21st century living through sauna and ice bath spa sites, including pop-ups at festivals, wellness retreats, yoga, as well as meditation and sleep workshops. The sauna at Compton Bay is open Thursday to Sundays, between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Prices start from £15 per person or £75 for a private group booking. 1-hour slots are available and sessions should be booked in advance at slowmotionsauna.as.me/schedule.php. There is no ice bathing available, but sauna users are encouraged to jump into the sea to cool off. Slow motion saunas are supported by the British Sauna Society, a not-for-profit organisation with the aim of promoting and developing sauna culture for physical, mental and social health and well-being.
Drink driver back in court for being over the limit. A drink driver who was banned from the roads in 2019 for, quote, one of the highest readings magistrates had seen, has been back in court, this time for being more than 3 times over the limit. Appearing before Island magistrates, Leah Franklin of St Martin's Road, Wroxall, admitted drink driving. Liz Miller, prosecuting, said at around 8:45 p.m. on May the 1st, Franklin was spotted by police on patrol. Officers saw a BMW with Franklin at the wheel pull out of a junction in Ryde erratically. The car was stopped on Park Road and Franklin, 29, told police she had been drinking throughout the day. She was breathalyzed and taken to custody, and while there another breath test came back at 108 micrograms of alcohol, when the legal limit is 35. Jim Osborne, defending, said Franklin had already been banned from driving once before. On that occasion, magistrates said her reading was one of the highest they'd ever seen, and she was disqualified from driving for 2 years, a ban that has since expired. Mr Osborne asked for a pre-sentence report, and the case was adjourned to July the 5th. Franklin was given an interim disqualification.
Volunteers get project rolling. An incredible community effort has seen a skate park completely transformed in just over a week. Volunteers have maintained Ventnor Skate Park for more than 20 years, and in 2019 a concrete base was installed at the site. Unfortunately, COVID put paid to further plans, but a dedicated team of committee volunteers remain keen to progress a project to enhance the site. In 2022, plans, reports and documentation had all been prepared, and the project was on the cusp of progressing when a sea wall collapsed in November, just metres away. This led to uncertainty over the future of the site. But John Cattle and Zoe Thompson of the Island Skate Company, White Trash, both trustees of Ventnor Skate Park Group, already had a successful DIY project in Ryde to their name, and it was decided that as a small-scale meanwhile project, it could be emulated in Ventnor to ensure the space remains usable in the short term. A crack team from Neverland Skate Parks who completed the Ryde project were able to fit in a week between other mainland projects and agreed to return to the island to hand-build a selection of concrete obstacles. They started on Saturday, June the 1st, and with the weather on their side, they were able to complete the work in about a week. "We were lucky to have Neverland Skate Parks back over for the build," said John Cattle, "and what a job they've done. We had a maximum budget of £8,000, which has all been raised through local donations. The community has really got behind this. We couldn't do these types of projects if it wasn't for the island's building trades, who offer discounts and go out of their way to help us. White Building Materials, Jewson's, Sydenham's and The Forge have been a huge support. It's awesome to see so many people already enjoying the park. Ventnor Skate Park Group remains the leaseholders for the site and will now be working on the long-term future of the skate park."
Racist pushed his mum and attacked carer. A man pushed his own mother and violently attacked his carer, subjecting him to racist abuse and making threats to stab him with a steak knife. Richard Herbert of High Street, Shanklin, appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates in May. The 25-year-old admitted racially aggravated assault occasioning actual bodily harm and threatening a person with a bladed article in Shanklin on February the 6th. Herbert also admitted assault by beating in Basingstoke on November 3rd. Prosecutor Lauren Stone said Herbert assaulted his mother in November, pushing her shoulder outside Burger King, causing bruising and lasting pain. He had been made homeless and became aggressive and frustrated over difficulties booking accommodation. Miss Stone said the February incident involved Herbert's carer. Herbert was in a bad mood and smashed a mug over the victim's head, picked up a steak knife and made threats to stab him. The victim suffered a deep laceration to his face, which required gluing, and cuts. Miss Stone said the offence was racially aggravated and involved a derogatory word. Herbert saw his face adjourned to today, Friday, at the Isle of Wight Crown Court.
And now we're moving on to some heritage from the island by Alan Stroud, called Simpler Times for Islands Shoppers. Back in the 1980s, Henry Hislop of Cowes, now in his 80s, was a presenter on St Mary's Hospital Radio. It's a good thing he was. During his time there, Henry recorded some fascinating interviews with various locals talking about island life in times gone by. And not only did he have the good sense to record the interviews, he then kept them safe and sound as the years went by. Over the next few months, some of Henry's interviews will get another airing here. The first is with someone well known to many older Cowes readers, Eric Rashley, of Rashley's Stores in Park Road, Cowes, who tells of a way of shopping a whole world away from today. Rashley's was a grocery and bakery business. We had 3 bread rounds, a horse and cart that went around Cowes delivering the bread, a van which used to go to Porchfield and outlying districts, and a hand cart for the local area. Labour was very cheap in those days and you had time to look after people. It was very different to today's way of doing business. Monday morning was wash day. There were no washing machines in those days, so you didn't see very many faces on Monday. So that was our wrapping up day. Very little was pre-packed, so on Monday we wrapped up a week's supply of tea and sugar, dried fruit and candles. Very big business. We had our own brand of tea, which actually came from Brook Bond, but it had our wrapper on it. Locally, many houses only had gas lighting, so we sold a tremendous amount of candles. Winter time, that was a big business. Fats were all loose. You had a slab of butter and a slab of bright yellow margarine and lard, all on marble slabs, and they were weighed up as the customers wanted it. We would go out and collect orders and come back and assemble it and then deliver it to them if you were lucky. And if you were lucky, you would be paid for the next week. Everybody had at least a week's credit. Some had far more, and you were lucky if you got squared up. My father used to sit in his office and he'd spend most of his days interviewing salesmen. You'd have your boot polish reps, your flour reps, and various biscuit companies.
Biscuits were all in returnable tins, loose. Packet biscuits were just beginning to come in. Refrigeration wasn't common in shops, so on Saturday nights, in the hot weather particularly, you had to get rid of all your bacon and perishable stuff. So there were Saturday night bargains. We used to open until 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday nights. Henry also interviewed the delightfully named Dolly Punch, and she told him about Bembridge life at the turn of the last century. In Bembridge Harbour there was a pier where the passenger steamers could land if the tide was right, but if the tide was low, the passengers would have to go farther around to what we called Under Tyne, just along from Ducie Avenue. The boat would berth there, and then you had to walk down a cement path, get into a boat, and be rowed out to the steamer. Then you had to climb up a rope ladder onto the steamer, and then the passengers that wanted to disembark had to climb down the ladder into the boat and be rowed back to shore. You had to watch to know where the boat was going to come. There was a man who used to deliver the milk at Bembridge. He wasn't a young man by any means, and he used to carry his 2 cans on a yoke to walk to the farm near the airport, get the milk, walk back with it to the village, and he had to climb a very steep hill to get there. Then he delivered the milk round to his customers, and after dinner he did the same thing again, 2 complete trips a day. He would be carrying about 6 gallons at a time, 3 gallons in each bucket. He had his measures, a pint, half pint and quarter pint measures. I know one family who all they ever used to have was 1/4 pint of milk. Without Henry, these slices of island life would never have been captured. Well done, that man.
And now we've got the opinion of Matthew Chatfield, and he's entitled the article Ferry Choppy Political Waters. The 2024 general election campaigns have launched onto choppy political waters. On the Isle of Wight, we can rely on our national sport of moaning about cross-Solent transport, reaching stentorian levels as we approach polling day. Last election in 2019, the laughable movement for a so-called Freedom Tunnel diverted attention from real debate about solutions to the island ferries' woes. This time, the acute crisis on the Solent seems likely to prove a defining theme of our votes in both West and East Wight. It amazes me that we are so easily distracted from this problem. Leaving the fixed link ideas to one side, even now there is yet another idea for a shiny new ferry service to divert us. But we don't need another ferry service. We need to make the ones that we have already work properly. If the existing routes were reliable, regular and timetabled according to the travellers' needs rather than commercial opportunities, I doubt we would hear so many complaints. And we already know how we can start the process of achieving this. Funnily enough, it was a Conservative MP who most recently tried to set that in motion. As long ago as 2009, Andrew Turner MP campaigned for the Office of Fair Trading to refer the Isle of Wight ferry services to the Competition Commission. This was refused. Since then, Mr Turner and then his successor Bob Seeley MP continued with discussions and awareness raising in Westminster. Despite these 15 years of intercession, in March this year the current government confirmed that it still had no interest in intervening in the cross-Solent travel market. Transport Minister Lord Davies said, "The current Solent ferry market is functional, as it offers a range of services for islanders with multiple operators providing commercially viable routes, competing for passengers. The department is therefore not considering the introduction of public service obligations or other interventions in the market." By contrast, there was last week a surprisingly specific statement from the bloke the bookies expect to lead the next government. Keir Starmer finds himself in the unusual position of making promises he will likely need to keep. He said, "I am baffled why this hasn't been tackled before. Labour would ask the Competition and Markets Authority to look at the ferries situation and whether intervention is needed. The Competition and Markets Authority is responsible for strengthening business competition and preventing and reducing anti-competitive activities. So they could oblige ferry operators to provide a basic level of service, for example." It was no surprise when a few days later the Conservatives promised a vaguer but still welcome review to explore all options to provide more choice and drive down fares. Therefore, regardless of who wins the new Isle of Wight parliamentary seats, will be closer to a new examination of the problem than we have been since 2009. And so we should all keep our eyes on the new Parliament to make sure this particular election promise does not get delayed by operational difficulties.
And now
moving on to what's on the island, starting off with the second annual Isle of Wight Beer Festival at New Close, and it's going to be on Friday the 28th of June to Sunday the 30th of June. On the Friday it's from 4 o'clock, on the Saturday it's from 12 noon and Sunday from 12 noon. It's £10 entrance fee, which includes your first pint and a beer mug and a programme, and it's £9 for camera members. No booking necessary, and dogs on leads are welcome.
stage is set for Round the Island race this weekend. Thousands of sailors will flock to Cowes, hoping to make their mark when the Round the Island race returns tomorrow, Saturday. The annual spectacle for amateur and professional yachtsmen and women will see competitors follow a 50 nautical mile course anti-clockwise around the island. Teams will compete for one of over 100 trophies in the 90-year-old event. A mix of Olympians, professional race teams, amateurs and families will be out on the water, challenged to break the existing course records of 3 hours 43 minutes 50 seconds for a monohull boat and 2 hours 22 minutes 23 seconds for multi-hulls. So, where and when are the best places to watch the Round the Island Race 2024? It starts and finishes in Cowes. Between 6 a.m. and 7:20 a.m. boats will begin the event in 10 groups at 10-minute intervals. Yachts will head west towards Yarmouth, coming into view at Sconce Point between 7:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. The fleet will cruise around the Needles between 8 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. before passing Chiltern Chine from 8:45 a.m. to 12 p.m. Yachts will head to St Catherine's Point, where they will race past the lighthouse between 9:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. Those in Ventnor will get a great view from the La Falaise car park from 9:45 a.m. to 2 p.m. Spectators will be able to see the yachts from Shore Road car park in Bonchurch and Culver Down between 10 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. The best place to catch the end of the race will be Ryde Pier between 11:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Onshore, meanwhile, expect music and entertainment. The parade in Cowes is free to enter from 2 p.m. on Friday, July 14th. The shoreside race village will feature live music on stage, as Blonde Bombshell and Cornerstone headline today and tomorrow respectively. A food court featuring local island vendors, such as Honey Donuts and Island Ice, will also be available for spectators, competitors and supporters. The globally renowned Round the Island race has named the RNLI as its official charity. Donations raised will help train volunteer crews at stations at Cowes, Yarmouth and Bembridge, as well as in Hampshire and Dorset.
High quality produce and products at the County Show. The Royal Isle of Wight County Show is a much loved event which attracts residents and visitors alike. Taking place on Saturday and Sunday, July the 13th and 14th, this year's show promises an array of attractions that celebrate the best of the Isle of Wight. Established in 1833, the show has grown to become a key event in the island's calendar, offering a chance for people to come together and enjoy a weekend full of activities and experiences. A main highlight of the show is local produce, including White Mark, awarded to only the finest island food and drink. Visitors can meet the growers, makers, distillers and brewers behind these products, sample their tasty offerings and learn more about the processes involved in bringing these high-quality items to market. It's a fantastic opportunity to support local producers and discover new favourites. Arts and crafts are another major draw. Local artists and crafters showcase their talents, and visitors can interact with them, gaining insights into how they develop their skills and turn their passions into professions or profitable part-time hobbies. The I Love White Makers market is a must-visit, with stalls offering a diverse range of homeware, jewellery, ceramics, skincare products, candles and unique gifts. It's an excellent place to find one-of-a-kind items while supporting our local creative community. Advance tickets are available now, with day tickets priced at just $12.50 for adults, $14.50 on the day, and weekend tickets at £17 for adults, £22 on the day. Children under 16 can enter for free when accompanied by a paying adult, making this a great family-friendly outing. Don't miss out on this vibrant celebration of island life. Book your early bird tickets now via isleofwight.observer/county show and ensure you're part of this amazing event.
Midsummer Fair back this weekend. A traditional village fair makes its welcome return on Saturday. The Shorewell Midsummer Fair is on between 1:30 p.m. and 5 p.m. For the second consecutive year, the traditional village fair will be held in the grounds of Wolverton Manor in Shorewell. Many attractions and stalls will be run by local people and organisations, with all proceeds going to local community causes. This year there will be a tea tent and arena events, which include a falconry display, a dog show and live music. Friends of the Animals is hosting the dog show, with registration from 1:45 p.m, and the dog show is starting at 2:45 p.m. Pooches can enter as many classes as you wish, with rosettes for first, second and third place, plus a best in show from all the category winners. There will be free parking adjacent to the venue and a low admission price, with children under 16 entering for free. One of the last surviving original fairs on the island, the Shorewell Midsummer Fair, promises family entertainment and a memorable afternoon for all.
Due to road closures around the town, Ventnor Day in Ventnor Park will now be celebrated on Saturday, August the 16th from noon till 6 p.m, and it will now be part of the town's Carnival Week.
Outdoor brass band concert. Join Vectis Brass Band for an outdoor concert in Rillstone Gardens, Shanklin on Thursday, June the 20th. The band will play an hour's worth of traditional and modern music, with something for everyone to enjoy. Entry to the park is free, deck chair hire £1, refreshments available to purchase. I have readers' letters. Abusing the benefit system, from Susan Clarkson of Ryde. Dear Editor, the Isle of Wight Observer on June the 7th refers to the Bulgarian benefit fraudsters who created 6,000 identities to steal 54 million from the UK taxpayers. Anyone who has lived on the mainland, particularly London, will be aware that this is just the tip of a very big iceberg. Whilst the Bulgarian gang are extreme examples, benefit fraud is widespread, particularly among the Eastern European communities. Many do not realise that they are doing anything wrong and are quite open about what they are claiming. They believe that they only need to work the minimum hours per week, in order to qualify for the full range of benefits, and are therefore able to live for free in the UK. The money that they receive for, quote, cash in hand, unquote, work is sent back to their home country to buy properties. Falsely claiming child benefit for children living in their home country is simple and very tempting. The benefit agency has no birth record of these children and are therefore not able to dispute the claims. The problem is not with the Eastern European people, it is with our government who is allowing this to happen. I think that if many British citizens were able to go to another country and use their benefit system in the same way, they would be very tempted to do so. Let us all hope that the incoming government deals with benefit fraud and does not, instead, take money away from sick and disabled people who really need it.
National service isn't for everyone, and this is sent in by Ken Summer of Apps Heath. Dear Editor, should one be surprised that Rishi Sunak, the man who made millions betting against Britain on the money markets during the 2008 bank crisis, leaves the D-Day ceremony and world leaders early to pre-record an interview with ITV that isn't scheduled to be broadcast for days? Yes, the bloke who told teenagers they should be doing national service. You really couldn't make this stuff up. I guess the messaging is national service for others, but no national service for me. Disgraceful.
Risk averse from Philip Kennelly of Shanklin. It seems that history is repeating itself. Years ago, the council spent so much money on professional fees to survey and design a solution to the St Lawrence Undercliff Road subsidence that they couldn't afford to repair it. They are now spending another fortune on testing equipment on Leeson Road, before spending another fortune on professional fees. Landslips have occurred in this area every few decades for centuries. Had the latest slip occurred 50 years ago, before testing equipment had been invented, the road would have reopened months ago. After 6 months, there is no evidence that the road is unsafe. When Newport Road is closed on June 24th for 2 weeks, there will be only one road to access Ventnor. If this road is blocked by an accident or utilities emergency, Ventnor will be cut off completely. It is high time common sense prevails and Leeson Road is reopened. One could, as a precaution, ban heavy goods vehicles. The council and/or island roads are being ultra-risk averse with the present policy. One is more likely to be struck by lightning than come to harm on this road.
Silica fears. This has been written by Steve Burton, the General Manager of White Building Materials. I am writing to offer reassurance to the Wootton community in response to some alarming and false claims that have been circulating about our plans to extract sand and gravel from land at Palmer's Farm. These claims have wrongly suggested that this quarrying would pose a risk to the school and the wider community from a health condition called silicosis. This claim is simply untrue. By way of background, silica is a natural substance found in most rocks, sand and clay. We surround ourselves with silica-rich materials daily through activities such as going to the beach or gardening, and silica presents no risk to health. It is only under certain very specific conditions, none of which will exist at Palmer's Farm, that silica dust causes health issues such as silicosis. These issues occur only after a person has had prolonged exposure to extremely small particles, fine dust, with particles too small to see in normal lighting conditions, which are breathed deep into the lungs after evading the body's natural defences of nose, hair, saliva, etc. The greatest risk around silicates occurs not when sand and gravel is quarried, but when it is processed, and no processing will take place at Palmer's Farm. All our processing is undertaken under carefully regulated processes at St George's Down. The Health and Safety Executive has stated that no cases of silicosis have been documented among members of the public in Britain, indicating that environmental exposure to silica dust is not sufficiently high to cause this occupational disease. There are other factors to consider. First and foremost, the quarry will have a high moisture content, which will naturally suppress dust. Secondly, the site would operate in accordance with a dust management plan outlining the steps that will, if required, be taken to ensure any dust produced does not pose a risk. Thirdly, this management plan will be accompanied by a monitoring regime to demonstrate compliance with appropriate air quality standards and dust deposition criterion. As a further safeguard, planning officers will need to be satisfied our application contains acceptable measures to control dust before they can recommend approval.
The county press has been notified that newly printed banknotes featuring King Charles III have reached the Isle of Wight. A customer at the Reef in Sandown paid with one of the new £20 notes on Saturday. Emma Salter-Payne from the restaurant said it was handed up to one of our staff members, Lily Tyndall. We were all really surprised to see it. The new King Charles banknotes officially came into circulation on June the 5th. They will gradually replace damaged notes, or will be issued when demand increases. The King's portrait, which features, is based on a picture taken in 2013. Since 1960, notes have featured Queen Elizabeth II. Shoppers can still use the current £5, £10, £20 and £50 notes with the late Queen on it. Send your interesting photos to us at editor@iwcp.co.uk.
What a morning! And this is sent in from Felicity Fair Thompson from Sandown. Thank you, Apollo Theatre in Newport, for a great day on June the 6th, marking D-Day, and showing the new 30-minute film 80 Years On, inspired by the novel The Kid on Slapton Beach. With Lord Lieutenant of the Isle of Wight, Susie Sheldon, in attendance, and more than 40 people there, it was the moment to pay tribute to all the young men who landed on the D-Day beaches, so many giving their lives so that we could be free. On Saturday, June the 8th, the film was shown again at Sandown Conservative Club, with the extra interest of a filmed interview with 99-year-old Alec Penstone, Arctic convoys and D-Day veteran. 50 people were there. What a morning of history, memories and conversation. Thank you to everyone for making these D-Day events so special.
And now it's goodbye from me, John, wishing you an enjoyable weekend.
And it's goodbye from me, Lynn. Bye.
The In Touch programme follows. Alt text in news, Gold Ball saved my life. Alt text is an image description for those who use screen readers. It is an important accessibility tool that is often misused or is missing entirely, impacting on visually impaired people's experiences when consuming online content. The BBC's Johnny Cassidy was instrumental in creating new mandatory training and guidance for journalists, so that they can consider and begin to implement meaningful descriptions of images, graphs, maps and graphics, etc. in the content that they create. The guidance is also available for journalists and content creators outside of the BBC. Johnny describes why and how this all came about, and Holly Tuke, a visually impaired blogger and content creator, describes how important alt text is to her online experience. Gareth Mannering is from West Wales and has recently discovered goalball. It is a sport designed specifically for people with visual impairments, and it has had a profound impact on Gareth's life. He and his mum Helen describe how the sport, as well as making Gareth more active, has created more opportunities. If you're interested in getting involved in goalball, you can find details of Goalball UK's taster sessions via the following link: goalballuk.com/the sport/taster sessions/. The scaffolding news follows this.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello.
Quiet, please. Centre.
Goalball saved my life. Now there's a headline to grab your attention. We will be finding out more about one of the few sports to be designed solely with blind people in mind and how it comes to have life-saving properties. But talking of headlines, we start the programme with a question. How much are blind and partially sighted people missing when we want to go more deeply into the background of news stories? A question which could hardly be more important in the run-up to a general election. It's true that there's far more access than ever before to the newspapers themselves and to the online news coverage provided by broadcasters like the BBC. But how much does the text alone tell the whole story? Well, it's a question which BBC online journalist Johnny Cassidy asked himself, and he's actually done something about it. He's produced a report with guidelines on how much is lost when reporters resort to purely visual means to illustrate their stories. Graphics, graphs, maps, photographs, of course. So, Johnny, how much are we missing?
Well, it's a really good question, Peter. The thing with text descriptions, with images, with the complex images that you're talking about, as blind audiences, fundamentally, we don't know what we don't know. When there is information being conveyed through an image, let that be a photograph, let it be a graph, a chart, a map, or an infographic, as an audience, as a participant that's relying on the alt text, the text descriptions, we are relying on what the journalists put into that and what they deem as the relevant information.
You use the term alt text, so let's clear that up straight away, because a lot of people probably don't even know what alt text is. Can you define it?
Yeah, well, at its simplest terms, alt text, it's a description that a screen reader user will have read out when they flick over a photo. So say if I am using my screen reader on a laptop and I'm cursing down through a story, and I come across the image, the alt text is the actual narrative, the description of what is within the image. And the same things happens when you're using it on your phone. If you're using VoiceOver or TalkBack or whatever it is on your phone, when you're flicking down through it, it's that piece of descriptive text that gives an idea, an indication, a description of what the image is. Think of it how you would describe it to your mum or your dad or your brother and sister on the phone who didn't have the image in front of them. It's really, really important for that equitable experience of all audiences.
So give me some examples of how alt text or alternative text can satisfactorily fill in the gaps.
Well, if we want to talk about complex images, and these are the maps and graphs and charts and infographics that I talk about, for me, this is where it all started. I was lucky enough to do a fellowship at the Reuters Institute as part of a BBC fellowship at Oxford University. And I really wanted to try and understand how we could offer that equitable experience for all audiences when maps and graphs and charts and infographics were being used more and more in a lot of the content that we were creating as journalists. So if we take an example of during the financial crash, the financial crisis, we would always have seen graphs about the value of the pound versus the dollar. And if you were sighted, you would be able to look at that and you would be able to see on any one particular day, any one particular data point, what the value was. But for many people, often what you got in that alt text field was historical value of the pound versus the dollar, which doesn't really give you any information at all. Another really good example is during the COVID pandemic, when the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention created what we know as the flattening the curve infographic. Virtually no thought or consideration whatsoever was given to how blind audiences were going to be able to access that really vital health information. And that infographic was amplified in newsrooms across the world. But a lot of the alt text, the text descriptions that people ever got was flattening the curve infographic, which isn't any use at all, really.
Well, you could argue in that case, Johnny, the answer to that is listen to the radio. I mean, isn't that what blind people have always tended to do? Because people are forced to put things into words there, aren't they?
Well, absolutely. You could say that, but there is a functionality there. It exists. What we're trying to do with the guidance that we've released at the BBC is to try and get journalists, all digital journalists, to really try and consider more about what you put into that alt text description field. The functionality exists, but unfortunately a lot of the time there's no quality control given. So what I'm asking for and what this guidance is asking for and trying to help with is how journalists can become more aware of what it is that they need to offer that richer and more equitable experience to people like me who use a screen reader.
Right. So what about the attitudes and experiences of visually impaired consumers of news and other content? Holly Tuke is an accessibility writer and blogger. She's been thinking and talking about online accessibility for getting on for a decade. Holly, as I say, you consume a lot of news online. To what extent do you think you're getting the same as sighted readers?
I think it's a real mixed bag of an experience. I often read articles and there's good alt text, but then equally it can sometimes be missing or not there at all, or it's just very vague. So my screen reader will usually just say image, and I'm sat there thinking, well, what is that image? How is that going to help me think about the article in maybe a different context? How is it giving me the information I need and it's not there? I'm not getting that information. Or sometimes it's a misuse of alt text. So it displays photo credits, for example, who's taken the picture, or completely irrelevant information. So it's not used for accessibility purposes. I came across an article at the weekend. So after the Lionesses won France in the Euro qualifiers, there was an image in a piece which was detailing all the summary of that, and it was interesting read for many of us who are Lionesses fans. And the alt text said the players' names, so it said Lucy Bronze and Alessia Russo celebrating, and I knew that they were celebrating the win. However, I did want to know more of what was going on, so obviously I'm assuming they were in the football stadium. I wanted to get a bit more of the feel for that and help to set the mood. I knew it was obviously a very celebratory mood, but I think there's more detail that could have been given there just than the one sentence.
Absolutely, totally. And this is about an equitable experience, and this is about adding richness to that experience, no matter how you are accessing that information. That image, it could have really carried a mood, the sentiment, them holding the cup. They could have been hugging each other. They could have been, jumping on each other. There could have been anything at all. You could have had lots of people in the background cheering. It's all that level of detail that, as sighted audiences, people can see that. And we talk about it as an accessibility feature. I want us to move away from this being about accessibility, and I want us to consider it about audiences. All audiences, no matter how they're accessing the content we've created.
Johnny, how seriously is the BBC taking this? I mean, they're making the course on this mandatory, which has to be a good sign. But, is it really going to change the way journalists do their reporting? After all, by definition, a lot of news reporting has to be produced in a hurry. It's news. There's all that kind of stuff going on, isn't there?
Well, absolutely. And this is about culture change, Pete. This is about trying to put something else into people's workflow. And as you say, we're all very busy people. There's a lot of stuff that's happening really quickly. But I would argue that if we do consider this as editorially relevant and editorially as important as the copy that you've written, as the headlines, as the caption, or indeed the image you've chosen, you don't do that lightly. Journalists do not do that lightly. So what I want, and how this is hopefully going to make progress, is that it does become editorially as important. This is going to be a challenge for a lot of people because it's not easy really to do this when you haven't done it in the past. But if we want to really provide true value for all BBC licence fee payers, we really need to be doing it.
And Johnny, you've naturally talked about the BBC because you're doing this for them. But what about other news outlets? I think there's a couple of newspapers who are taking this seriously, aren't they? New York Times, I think, have got a new accessibility visuals editor, and the Financial Times is another one taking it seriously. So it does seem to be spreading, doesn't it?
There is. There really, really is. When I was doing my fellowship at Oxford, I spoke to a lot of different news organisations who are doing it. And I would say that BBC are at the forefront of this, especially with the alt text descriptions. There's no other news orgs that have put out external guidelines like this. And I was really, really keen when I started working on this that this wasn't just something that was going to be kept to the confines of the BBC inside our walls. I wanted it to be something that was going to be of benefit to the wider journalism industry. If this guidance can be of benefit to people outside the BBC, then that's going to be a win-win for everybody.
Holly, what would you say to reporters to get the idea across of how important this is to you?
I would say to embed accessibility practices into everything that you do. I think journalists and everyone, the wider public, often see accessibility as an afterthought, and it's not for many of us. It's the basis of how we access the digital world, how we access the outside world and the physical world. It's everything we do, and it pretty much dictates many aspects of our lives. It means something, and it helps you pull in your audiences. You know, if it's not accessible, you are going to lose audiences. So really embedding accessibility and inclusion so that you are making your content accessible to everyone.
Well, we will be following this with interest, and we'd like to know what other people who read their news online think about it. Johnny Cassidy, Holly Tuke, thank you both very much indeed. Now, most people would acknowledge that sport isn't just fun, but great for your health. But as for saving your life, well, possibly a rather extravagant claim. The young man who made it, Gareth Mainwaring from West Wales, would, in fairness, probably admit there was a bit of overstatement there. But he really does believe that his discovery of goalball, one of the only sports to have been invented specifically with visually impaired people in mind, has changed his life very much for the better. He's been telling me about it.
Goalball has opened up so many doors, and it's given me loads of opportunities, like with friends, because now it's given me the opportunity to go to RNC Hereford to do goalball and study massage and complementary therapy course. Before goalball, I'd go along thinking everything's fine the way it is, but after finding goalball, it's sort of reawakened me and shown me that everything I'm doing needs to be better and I need to push harder.
And I think it's connected, isn't it, with the condition that you have, which is a genetic condition, affects the eyes but affects other things as well.
Yes, it does. My condition is called Bardet-Biedl syndrome, BBS for short. It affects me with the sight impairment because it's given me two different conditions. It's broad cone dystrophy and retinitis pigmentosa, RP for short. It is deteriorating over time. It has gotten really a lot worse than it used to be, and I can't do the same things as I could do before. It affects the entire body because it doesn't communicate as it's supposed to, so I don't know when I'm not hungry. I can't stop eating, so I've got to really be strict with my diet.
Which obviously has considerable consequences in terms of weight, I guess.
Yeah, it's really difficult because you don't know when to stop, so it did impact me emotionally, I think. I was more depressed and a lot more anxious. I haven't been kind to myself for a while. I'm still working on it.
So where does goalball come in, and what has that enabled you to do that you weren't doing before?
It's given me new things to do, you know, a new target to push myself towards, new friends, and I'm a lot more social, a lot more confident than I've been able to show in the past. If you play in a team sport, you feel a part of something instead of feeling isolated when you're out in the sighted world.
Now, I guess we ought to explain, for those who don't know, a bit what goalball is. It's a game between two teams of blind people. Take it from there. How does a goalball game work?
is pretty simple, really. You've got 3 players on each side. You've got one in the centre, one on the left, one on the right. You have to defend with your body. You're sort of almost lying on your side, on top of your hip. And you use your entire body to block the ball. And then you stand up and you shoot it back like a bowling ball. It's an audible ball. It's got 2 bells in it. It's quite heavy. It's 1.25 kilograms.
So what was the appeal of the game for you?
I don't know, really. I just really enjoyed it. And the fact that you can enjoy being yourself. It's definitely helped with the exercising, because that's gotten a lot more intense, because I used to just do the running, but now I'm doing goalball and other exercises to get better at goalball as well. I try not to do too much. I'm not that confident. And then when I'm playing goalball, I'm quite confident and quite happy, and just happy to give everything a go, really.
I am just going to bring in Helen briefly on this, your mum, because Helen, I mean, can you give me an idea of the difference that you've seen that it's made to Gareth?
The main thing with goalball is that when you have a sight-impaired young person in a school, I'm all about integration, but in that environment, your sight-impaired young person is going to feel disabled, where what the goalball has done is empower him and make him feel enabled, because he's on a level playing field. He's the same as everybody else. And that's the thing I think a lot of people find it difficult to understand. It's just that it gives you that empowerment and it enables you rather than making you feel disabled. It's just turned him into a completely different person, really. It's given him such a focus in life. It's been absolutely life-changing.
And what about the opportunities to play? Are you aware of efforts to make this a more widespread game?
Well, yes. When we discovered goalball, we only had the South Wales goalball team, but they've recently now, Goalball UK, have held sessions in North Wales with the aim of starting up a North Wales goalball club as well. And we've been working in Carmarthenshire with a local charity, a local voluntary group then called I Believe I Can. And we've worked with the South Wales goalball team to get them down west to help train some young people from West Wales, with the aim again of starting up a West Wales goalball club. So in the past year, we've gone from having 1 club in Wales to potentially having 3 clubs in Wales. So, which is amazing, because if other people get out of it what Gareth's had out of it, well, it's going to change other people's lives as well.
It could be challenging rugby for Wales's national sport, the way you're going.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Just finally, Gareth, the interesting thing is, quite apart from, as you've explained, giving you a bit of oomph and getting you going, I think you've proved to be quite good at it, haven't you?
Well, I went to the Goalball Academy in February, and then after that they sent us an email saying that I should go to the Under-19 trial. It went really well. I've made the Under-19 GB squad. It was just shock, because at the time I didn't think I did enough to get in there, but they said we were all brilliant and we worked really well together. So every one of us that was in the trial, we all got on the team.
So that's presumably a sign that, you might be able to make some real progress with it. I mean, it's an internationally played game. We have men's and women's teams who, not this year, sadly, but who've played in the Paralympics. So, I mean, it could be really quite an exciting thing to be involved in.
I'm not really quite sure where it will go. I just enjoy doing it. And I do get competitive, but it's mostly the enjoyment. So take it as far as I can go, really, I think. I don't feel embarrassed about how I am. I don't want to change who I am. I'm happy as I am.
Hopefully the story will reassure people, because if you'd have taken me forward to now, from when Gareth started secondary school, I wouldn't have believed you that we'd be so positive and so happy now. And it's just amazing, to have got this far. It's just unbelievable how things have turned out.
That's Gareth Mainwaring and his mum, Helen. Well, you can tell us about something that's changed your life, or about how news coverage could be improved. You can email intouch@bbc.co.uk, leave a voicemail on 0161 836 1338, or go to our website, bbc.co.uk/intouch, for further information or to download tonight's programme. That's all for now from me, Peter White, and this week's producer, Fern Lulham. Goodbye.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Scaffolding and skips news, week commencing 14th of June. Newport area, Oggie's Chip Shop, 2 to 3 St Thomas's Square. French Franks, 13 St Thomas's Square. 60 Crocker Street, 1 Caesars Road. 18 Lugley Street. 15 Trafalgar Road. 67A High Street. Orme House, Pyle Street. 130 to 132 Stainless Games, High Street.
Ride area, 2 St Thomas's Square. The pavement outside 29 to 30 Cross Street. Ice cream parlour, Esplanade. 60 Union Street. Harriet House, 44 George Street. Boots, 170 to 172 High Street. 28 Applejam, High Street. Vine House, 16 Castle Street. West Cottages, West Street, Sea View. St Leonard's, 1 Pier Street, Sea View. French Franks, 17 Cross Street. 14 to 18 Melville Street. Outside Artisan, Union Street. 37 Union Street. 60 High Street. 4A and 4B Pier Street, Seaview.
Ventnor area, 2 East Street. Co-op, Pier Street. Murray Latars, Alma, Esplanade. Post House, Steep Hill Road, 28 High Street, 50 North Street, 1 The Gable, St Albans Road, and Ventnor Fire Street, 19 South.
Cowes area, 2 Castle Road, 1 Beckford Road, 31 Bath Road, and 71 York Street.
Shanklin area, the Crab Inn, 94 High Street, British Heart Foundation, Regent Street.
And Sandown area, the Old Comical, St John's Road, 10 St John's Road, and 1 Station Avenue.